A crisp autumn morning in 2023. The sky is clear, punctuated by fluffy white clouds. Ebony Brown steps off a city bus near the wrought iron gates of Wellington Academy. Her fingers tremble slightly as she straightens her new navy blue blazer, part of the mandatory school uniform. Around her neck, a delicate silver pendant, a keepsake passed down from her grandmother, glints in the morning sunlight. She pauses before the massive gates with Wellington Academy, Est 1693, in ornate gold lettering overhead. The intricate design makes the school appear more like an old European fortress than a modern high school. Serena Brown, Ebony's mother, stands nearby, clutching Ebony's satchel. Anxiety flares in her eyes. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Ebony? Wellington isn't exactly welcoming, especially for those of us who don't fit the usual mold." Ebony inhales a steadying breath, trying to exude confidence. "Mom, this scholarship is my ticket to places like Harvard or Columbia. I've prepared myself. I can handle the pressure." Serena, still worried, finally nods. "All right. Just be careful. Don't let them push you around. And if it ever gets to be too much, promise me you'll tell me." Ebony embraces her mother briefly, then turns to face the campus. Stepping past the gates, she feels as if she has entered an entirely different universe. Ancient, grand, and faintly intimidating. Advanced literature class takes place in Wellington Hall, the oldest building on campus with gleaming wooden floors and dark oak paneling. Ebony slides into a seat near a large window. The teacher, Mrs. Layton, introduces Toni Morrison's novel, Beloved. Having read the book extensively, Ebony confidently raises her hand to discuss collective trauma and intergenerational suffering. Mrs. Layton nods in approval. "Excellent analysis, Ms. Brown." At the back of the room, Logan Harrington sits with arms crossed, icy blue eyes glaring in Ebony's direction. He leans toward his friends, Garrick Rhodes, son of a business magnate, Trent Myers, whose father owns a major manufacturing firm, and Mason Clark, the local judge's son, whispering something that prompts snickers. When class ends, Ebony is gathering her books when Logan deliberately shoulders into her desk, knocking textbooks onto the floor. "Oops," he says sarcastically, not even glancing at the scattered books. "Must be that special diversity quota at work." Logan's friends chuckle on cue. Mrs. Layton pretends not to see, absorbed in organizing her papers. Ebony crouches to pick up her books, maintaining a calm exterior. She looks Logan squarely in the eye, but says nothing. Her silence angers him more than any retort. Lunch hour finds Ebony alone in the academy's lavish dining hall. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook manicured lawns. Round tables are filled with different cliques: the wealthy scions, varsity football players, and the campus fashionistas. No one makes room for Ebony. Suddenly, a small girl with a high ponytail and a friendly smile carries her lunch tray over. "Hi, I'm Lucy Carter. Mind if I sit?" Ebony exhales in relief. "Sure, I'm Ebony." Lucy nods. Everyone's talking about the new scholarship kid who apparently put Logan in his place in lit class. Ebony gives a half smile. "All I did was stay calm." Lucy grins. "That's enough." Logan hates it when people act like they're not afraid of him. "By the way, my dad is a custodian here, so I don't exactly rank high on the totem pole. I've got nothing to lose by sitting here." And just like that, Ebony has found her first friend at Wellington. As the weeks pass, Ebony gets used to the stares and subtle hostility. Logan's group continues their accidental run-ins, spilling water on her papers, muttering cruel remarks under their breath. One morning, Ebony opens her locker to find the inside plastered with hateful, racist slurs hidden under innocuous stickers. Her hands tremble as she peels them off. She goes straight to Vice Principal Martinez, who replies with bored detachment. "No witnesses, no camera footage. Hard to investigate. Could be a prank. Just focus on your studies." Ebony swallows her anger. And that same day, in the chemistry lab, Ebony's near-finished advanced project, weeks in the making, is destroyed when Logan accidentally bumps her arm, spilling corrosive chemicals. The teacher merely reprimands Logan. "You need to be more careful." Then turns to Ebony. "Wipe it up, but you'll have to start over. No extensions." Later, in the dimly lit old campus library, Ebony searches for a fresh set of chemistry references. A lanky, bespectacled boy with disheveled hair approaches quietly. "About what happened in the lab. Anyone could see Logan did that on purpose. You deserved extra time." Ebony nods, surprised. "Yeah, thanks. But who are you?" "Dex Spencer," he answers, voice subdued. "I've observed Logan's pattern of bullying for 2 years now. He relies on his father's influence and a circle of well-connected friends to silence people." Ebony's eyes flash with pent-up frustration. "No one's doing anything." Dex adjusts his glasses. "I don't like bullies. My dad teaches at the community college, and we're not part of the in crowd here, so I'm not afraid of them. I can help you log incidents, gather data. Evidence is the key." His unexpected offer warms Ebony's heart. She's grateful for every new ally she can find. One morning, Ebony's phone buzzes with perplexing messages from classmates about questionable photos she apparently posted. She realizes, horrified, that someone has created a fake social media account in her name, superimposing Ebony's face onto inappropriate images and accusing her of sleeping with teachers for grades. Anonymous racist comments flood in. She rushes to Ms. Duncan, the school counselor, only to be met with condescension. "You really should be more careful online, Ebony. This might be a learning experience for you." Ebony can hardly believe her ears. "I didn't create that account." Ms. Duncan sighs. "There's no definitive proof who's behind it. Perhaps you unknowingly shared your password, or it was hacked. Either way, it's best to remove any questionable traces." Her words confirm Ebony's suspicion. The system is designed to protect the influential, leaving victims helpless. That evening, Ebony returns to the cramped apartment she shares with her mother, located above a small Chinese takeout. The scent of frying oil permeates the walls. Serena, fresh off a stressful hospital shift, cooks a simple dinner. Ebony recounts the day's events, tears of anger welling in her eyes. Serena's face goes pale. "I'll speak to the principal in the morning, Ebony. We won't back down." Next day, Serena Brown meets with Principal Bradley Crawford, Vice Principal Martinez, and Harrison Drake, the school board chairman, who also happens to be Garrick Rhodes's uncle. She presents screenshots, messages, statements from Ebony, Dex, and Lucy, demanding accountability for Logan's harassment. Chairman Drake's tone is paternal and menacing. "Mrs. Brown, these are serious allegations against our most prominent families, who generously donate to Wellington. We need solid proof and a delicate legal process." Principal Crawford feigns sympathy. "I understand your frustrations, Mrs. Brown, but Ebony may be struggling to fit in. Wellington is highly competitive, and sometimes students misinterpret stress as personal attacks." Serena leaves in a rage, fully aware that the system will do nothing to protect her daughter. Over the following weeks, the bullying escalates. Ebony finds red paint splashed on her gym locker, her bike tires slashed in the student lot. Nearly every evening, threatening messages pop up on her phone. "Know your place. Time to leave." At night, mother and daughter hear strange footsteps lurking outside on the street. Once, Ebony discovers a handwritten note plastered to their apartment door. "Go back to your hood." Serena immediately calls Detective Michael Daniels, an old acquaintance from the police department, who documents the incident. But the very next day, Daniels is pulled from the case with a vague explanation about conflict of interest. He confides in Serena privately. "I saw Mayor Harrington leaving my boss's office. They're interfering, but I won't give up. Keep recording everything." Soon after, Serena is laid off from the hospital after 15 years as a nurse. The official reason: restructuring. However, everyone knows that the mayor's wife sits on the hospital board. Financial worries stack up. One evening, they review Serena's severance pay, realizing it will only cover a few months of rent. Serena, exhausted, finally suggests, "Ebony, maybe it's best if we leave Wellington. Go back to Roosevelt High, at least until things blow over." Ebony presses her lips together. "Mom, that's exactly what they want. You taught me never to run away. I'm not giving up now." A moment later, Detective Daniels arrives with the news that someone smashed his car window outside their building. The criminals are now openly threatening anyone assisting the Browns. Ebony's frustration builds. She recalls how her father was officially declared missing in action. Yet a tiny spark of hope has lived inside her ever since her uncle figure, Franklin, mentioned that Nick was still alive. Despite her mother's warnings never to make contact, Ebony no longer sees any alternative. Late at night, Ebony sits on the edge of her bed, a single lamp illuminating the old photo of her father, Nicholas "Nick" Brown, in uniform, his stern face partially hidden in shadow. She dials the satellite phone number Uncle Franklin once slipped her in secret. Hands shaking, she speaks into the receiver. "Dad, I know you're alive. We're in danger. I need you." A heavy silence follows, interrupted only by faint static. At last, a low, gravelly voice. "Acknowledged." Ebony sets the phone down, heart pounding. Would her father really come? Days pass with no word, and Ebony resigns herself to disappointment. But then Detective Daniels calls, telling her about a mysterious person sniffing around Logan's personal information. Harrington is visibly alarmed. The next morning, a Greyhound bus halts at Riverside's depot. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a faded military-style jacket and baseball cap steps onto the sidewalk, scanning his surroundings with keen, vigilant eyes. Watching from a nearby cafe, Detective Daniels gets goosebumps. He recognizes the hallmark movements of a former Special Forces operator. It is Nick Brown. Nick traverses Riverside on foot, eventually stopping at the run-down apartment building that Ebony and Serena call home. He hesitates at the door, remembering all he left behind 9 years ago. When Serena opens it, they stare at each other in shock. Her voice trembles. "You're really here, after everything that's happened." Nick's tone is subdued. "She called, Serena. I couldn't stay away." Soon, Ebony returns from school and freezes. There, in the living room, stands the man from her single, treasured photograph. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, she can hardly speak. Nick's gaze softens. "I'm so sorry, Ebony. I'm sorry I wasn't here." She only nods, tears shining in her eyes. Forgiveness and fury mingle in her heart. But for now, she is simply relieved to know her father is real. Next morning, Nick quietly follows Ebony to school. He keeps a discreet distance, far enough not to cause immediate alarm, but close enough that anyone watching recognizes a protective father. Rumors of Ebony's father, a mysterious ex-soldier, spread across campus. Mayor Harrington, informed by his son, grows uneasy. He knows Nick Brown's file is largely classified, but the partial details of his lethal record unsettle him. Nick wastes no time. That afternoon, he appears inside Principal Crawford's office without the secretary's notice. Crawford jumps up. How did you get in here?" "My assistant. There's security." Nick places a small device on the desk. "Signal jammer. Don't bother hitting the panic button." He shows Crawford a bundle of Ebony's collected evidence. Threatening texts, screenshots, photos. "My daughter stays at Wellington. If you keep ignoring her complaints or continue protecting her bullies, I'll make sure your name goes public for negligence." Crawford tries to protest. "Is that a threat? You have no authority." Nick smiles icily. "Trust me, you'd know if I were threatening you. I've found 27 flaws in the school's security system. I can enter any room at any time, undetected." He strides out, leaving Crawford pale and speechless. That evening, Ebony encounters Logan and his cronies cornering her in a hallway. Logan sneers. "Your old man's back? Some washed-up soldier can't stand against my father." Suddenly, Nick materializes behind them. The group instinctively steps away. Nick's stare is as cold as steel. "Logan, right? Heard a lot about you." Logan attempts bravado. You can't scare me. My dad's going to have you locked up." Nick remains calm. "Your father's influence means nothing when I stop playing by your rules." As Nick escorts Ebony away, she berates him. "Dad, I don't want you fighting my battles." Nick shakes his head. "I'm not fighting them for you. Just making it clear that attacking you is a mistake." The next day, Logan finds his SUV in the parking lot with 4 flat tires, each valve neatly removed. On the windshield, a note reads, "Your home security system has a 3-second delay." Returning to his bedroom that evening, Logan notices his phone missing, only to discover it carefully replaced on his pillow. Plus, every text he ever sent Ebony, the hateful, threatening ones, has been forwarded to his father's private number. The messages remain unsent, but the warning is clear. We can do much worse. Mayor Harrington scrambles, holding a tense meeting with Police Chief Miller, Judge Clark, and Principal Crawford. Brown's military file is mostly sealed, but the little we do know is disturbing. We need more security. We need to get him out of Riverside. Late one night, Nick meets with Detective Daniels in an abandoned garage. They tack photos on a corkboard. Harrington, the school board, sympathetic judges, local business magnates. Lines crisscross. "A web of corruption," Daniels mutters. Nick explains. "They're skimming money and covering up so-called petty crimes by the elite. If we compile enough evidence, we can dismantle their entire infrastructure." Meanwhile, at Harrington Manor, a lavish estate adorned with crystal chandeliers, the mayor confers with close allies. He instructs them to dig up any dirt on Nick Brown, from his alleged desertion to rumored mental instability, hoping to discredit him. Things escalate at Wellington. In the busy cafeteria at midday, Logan and his friends set Ebony up. One stretches out a leg, another nudges her from behind, causing her to crash forward with a tray of food, staining her uniform. They gleefully capture video and post it online. Humiliated, Ebony stands up, shoulders squared, and walks out to the girls' restroom, ignoring the jeering crowd. Once inside, she lets the tears flow in private, tears of anger and desperation at an unjust system. Fed up, Ebony and Serena join forces with Detective Daniels to present a comprehensive dossier to local media right outside the school gates. Ebony announces, "We are naming Logan Harrington and his circle for sustained harassment, racism, and violence. Wellington Academy has ignored our pleas. We demand justice." The story goes viral, featuring the mayor's son at the heart of a bullying scandal. Public scrutiny begins to mount. In retaliation, Mayor Harrington holds a press conference, painting Ebony as an overworked scholarship student prone to delusions, and suggesting Nick Brown is a mentally unstable war veteran. The tension reaches a breaking point when Ebony receives a frantic text, apparently from Lucy, begging for help at the old boathouse near the lake. Though Ebony suspects a setup, she fears for Lucy and rushes there. By the time she arrives, the sun is dipping low, painting the water's surface in fiery hues of orange. Instead of Lucy, Ebony finds Logan, Garrick, Trent, and Mason armed with steel rods. "Lucy's just fine," Logan smirks. "But you're about to learn your lesson." They close in around her, brandishing weapons. Then Nick Brown emerges from behind stacked canoes. In seconds, his Special Forces training dispatches all 4 attackers, disarming them with expert moves. Garrick hits the ground with a groan. Mason yelps when his wrist is twisted. Logan seethes. "My dad's gonna make sure you're locked up for good, old man." Nick's demeanor remains measured. "Funny how you threatened a teenage girl with weapons. I'm sure the police will see which side is right." But the city police, led by Chief Miller, a staunch Harrington ally, suddenly arrive. They overlook the rods scattered on the ground, swiftly arresting Nick for assaulting minors. Ebony yells, pointing at the rods. They attacked first! Miller shakes his head. 4 injured kids and a Special Forces veteran using excessive force? Take him in, boys. Nick is handcuffed and led away, Ebony helplessly watching as her father is driven off. In a holding cell, Nick remains strikingly calm, as if he anticipated this move. Near midnight, Detective Daniels slips in and unlocks the cell. They're planning to keep you here indefinitely, then slap you with a restraining order to keep you away from Logan. They want you out of the picture. Nick stands, expression unyielding. They won't charge me officially. They're afraid I'll expose them in a public trial. Let me walk out now. We'll release all our files. Daniels nods, guiding Nick through a back exit. The next morning, Mayor Harrington holds yet another press conference. Nick Brown, an unstable ex-soldier, viciously attacked my son and his friends. I demand the law take its course. He is interrupted when Ebony, Dex, and Lucy step up in front of the police station, live streaming. My father defended me against 4 armed bullies. If you call that a crime, then where's the justice? We challenge City Hall to explain the secrecy, the double standards, the racism. Hashtags. Justice for Ebony and #unmask. Wellington explode on social media. Alumni come forward with their own bullying cover-up stories, fueling the outrage. Mounting public pressure forces Wellington's Board of Governors to launch an official inquiry. Principal Crawford is temporarily suspended, and all eyes turn to Harrington's suspect political dealings. Behind the scenes, Nick and Detective Daniels finalize an airtight case, bank records linking the mayor to illicit payments, emails ordering staff to expunge bullying reports, hidden server logs, hacked by Dex, confirming systematic erasure of complaints. They publish everything on a website Dex calls Wellington Truth and forward copies to the state attorney's office. Within an hour, the site goes viral. Cornered, Mayor Harrington tries to flee with Logan under cover of darkness to a private airstrip. Nick and Daniels coordinate with state police to intercept them on the highway, brandishing a freshly signed warrant. Harrington lashes out. "You can't arrest me without cause." A state prosecutor appears, presenting the warrant. Logan is also taken into custody, pending investigation for violent assaults tied to the boathouse incident. One by one, Chief Miller, Judge Clark, and other complicit officials resign or face suspension. The hospital board halts all restructuring, reinstating Serena with a promotion. Corruption probes rock Riverside from top to bottom. A newly appointed interim principal. Transparent complaint procedures. Creation of a student ethics council, with Ebony as one of the leading voices. Serena Brown, formerly overshadowed, is acknowledged for her perseverance and is invited to join the hospital's board as a representative for healthcare workers. Ebony Brown attends therapy sessions to address the trauma, gradually regaining her confidence. She still holds on to her dream of college, and her stellar grades and math competition awards earn her acceptance letters and scholarships from prestigious universities. Nick Brown struggles with whether to stay close to his family or continue living off-grid for their safety. Ultimately, Ebony and Serena convince him. "You can take on special ops assignments if you must, Dad, but don't vanish again. We need you." He agrees to remain part of their lives. Graduation day at Wellington arrives under a bright summer sky, the quad lined with towering maple trees. The ceremony is grand, with red and blue ribbons draped over canopies. Ebony, recognized for her academic triumphs, is named valedictorian. From the podium, she delivers a heartfelt speech. "My journey at Wellington taught me that education is not just about test scores. It's about standing up to injustice. When a system is broken, we must speak out to fix it. Every individual, no matter their background, deserves respect and safety." Below, Serena watches, eyes shining with tears, while Nick stands close beside her, his calloused hand resting gently on her shoulder in a gesture of quiet pride. The crowd roars as Ebony accepts her diploma. After the ceremony, Ebony packs up her dorm desk, her grandmother's silver pendant gleaming under the lights. She gazes at her reflection, recalling the hardships endured to get here. Now she's free to choose Columbia, Harvard, or any other doors newly opened. On her way out, she drops a note for the new Student Ethics Council, urging them to continue pushing for transparency and fairness. The story concludes with Ebony wheeling her suitcase away from Wellington, the summer cicadas buzzing in the warm air. Nick Brown walks a few paces behind, filled with a mixture of pride and regret. Serena waves from the campus gates, a smile of relief on her face. Behind them, a Wellington Academy in the midst of reinvention, intent on uprooting the toxic hierarchy that once reigned unchecked, striving to become a fairer institution. Ebony, the daughter of a phantom, now fully comprehends that true strength isn't found in fists or firearms. Real power grows from the courage to stand up, speak out, and believe in justice. She departs with not only the victory over her bullies, but also a determination to shape a better society, where no voice is silenced by privilege. No road is too difficult if you refuse to give up. This final reflection encapsulates her journey and opens a door to limitless possibilities, her own and for all who face what seems insurmountable. Author's note: if you enjoyed The Phantom Returns, the story of Ebony Brown, please like and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about ordinary people confronting extraordinary challenges and finding the courage within themselves and each other to overcome.